So we're not picking for needs here. We're picking for depth, except for, as you said, we're gonna need to continue to improve the offensive line to make things easier on Sam Howell.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, and also, since our coach says that we are trying to focus on the run and be a major running team, we definitely need that offensive line. Ladies and gentlemen, I will definitely direct your attention to my YouTube channel because myself and my guy Alex Loosemore over the last couple of weeks have dove into his former position, the offensive line. We talked about the tackles, and just yesterday we talked about the interior O linemen. So there's a number of big guys in there. But as far as O linemen, what in particular, like, kind of gets you excited? Except the fact that they have to stay on the field, because that's been the one thing that we can't seem to keep everybody on the field. But what are you looking for in an O line, and where are you going?
Yeah, well, and right before I say that, you and Alex do a fantastic job with that. I love you shared the interior one; it was perfect timing, and so that is definitely worth looking at. He breaks them down real well. He's got a good sense there. I have always liked, this is where it's funny. I tell you, it just means more in the SEC, but I am a fan of my big old nasty guys from the Big Ten that are just maulers.
Oh, yeah.
I do. It's because part of it, I think, also is I cannot, for the life of me, know what offensive linemen they're going to translate from college to pros. I just... sometimes you can see running backs, quarterbacks, and receivers and think that they can. This guy may not. I'm clueless when it comes to, is an offensive lineman going to work? So what I look for is size and mean streaks. That's what I'm looking for. I mean, I look for guys who can be the hogs. I think that's plain and simple.
Yeah. No, absolutely. 100%. 100%. I need those guys that when it's raining and it's pouring, they're right at home in the slop. They're just in run the ball, run it again, run it again. Okay, the epitome of it. And I'm gonna go back in history to the Redskins. You go back to I was watching some old footage the other day. You go back to the game against Dallas when we go into Super Bowl 17, our first Super Bowl victory. And in that game, the game is coming to the end, and we're driving, and they got Randy White and Jim Jeffcoat, all these Hall of Famers on their D line, and the O line. They came in, and Theismann called a pass. And he called a run, and they ran it. When they came back, and Theismann called a pass, and Russ Grimm said, "Run the ball." He said, "What is it, 50 gut or something like that?" And they ran it, and they came back, and next play, pass play, no, run the 50 gut, run the ball again, run it right at Randy Wright, run it right. That's what I want. I want a guy that just gets up and just, you got grass in his face, you got just teeth knocked out, and he's just ugly looking. He's growling and everything. That's what I want. It's a mentality that we've had in the Hogs 2.0, and we haven't had it in a while.
and there is a prospect that we will get to that epitomizes that. I know you love this guy out of this Division I AA school. Let's go. Your guy.
Absolutely, Will. So let's dive into that. Let's dive in. We have the 16th pick. And it's funny, I brought this up to him, and I'll talk to you better right now. My guy, Cody Mock. I mean, if you look at his picture alone, 2 front teeth out, and he's got the biggest grin on his face. And I'm like, whoo, buddy, that's my guy. But the biggest thing, he can play all 5 positions and play them well. Okay. He is mainly in the interior. Most likely, hopefully, we'll bring him at guard. But when they ran through the combine and all those things, and they ran through a lot of the drills, anywhere they put him, he was putting in work all along that O line. So whereas I first saw him and I got excited about his film and from the games and obviously the picture, once you start seeing that versatility, not to mention you got a nice big beefy size on you, that's something that I need. But then you also mentioned that 1AA. Okay, we also out of North Dakota State. We also had didn't Carson come from there?
Okay.
Well, they can't all be great, but they run more of a fast-paced offense. Their guards and their linemen need to be able to move. That is something that's where it looks like we're going to be going with Eric Bieniemy, with our two-headed running backs, and kind of like that. So that's something that I want. We need guys that are not just big and lumbering. Yeah. We need guys that if they're coming around, they're pulling, they're getting out there and they're coming right down the line and can hit and stick and move quickly and not clog up the hole. Because there's nothing that a running back, as a former running back, there's nothing that we hate more than trying to go into a hole and getting bounced back because that defender pushed you back into the hole. And all of a sudden, I'm back here getting yelled at. So what are some other names that you're looking at?
Well, before I give you some names, I want to kind of talk about like philosophy a little bit of it.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it's going to be interesting. I would love if we go into Saturday with 2 offensive linemen drafted. All right. I don't care if it's outside and inside or 2 inside guys, because I don't think we know what we're going to do right now with our offensive line. And there's some pieces you can move around. I mean, Andrew Wiley has played left guard, and right tackle. So he was signed here to be our right tackle. But if something were to change, if a guy were to slip to us, could you move him? Nick Gates was brought in to be our starting center, but he was out last year. He's gotten hurt, so does that mean that that we now neglect the center position? Or if the best player is still there in the second round, do we say center, go get him, go get Schmitz, Michael Schmitz, that type of stuff. So I think it's going to be interesting to see this, because I think there's, we do need to improve on the offensive line. And the way the market's getting, tackles, the price for an offensive tackle is extremely high. And the value of a left tackle is super important, especially to a young quarterback like we got. And I think Charles Leno is a good player, but if you can improve it, you do. All right. So, like, for example, there's a couple offensive linemen that are likely going to be gone. We know some of the top ones, the guy from Northwestern, Harris Johnson from Ohio State. But there's been some talks. What if Broderick Jones of Georgia slips?
Yeah.
And he's there at 16. Now, you, Sean, I'm going to ask you this. You're Mr. Moral guy here. You about shed tears when I mentioned cutting Charles Leno a couple weeks ago. But if you're able to draft Broderick Jones, do you now get rid of Charles Leno because you don't need them both?
You're gonna have to with finances, like with the way the money is gonna play. But with that, I almost want to have him get a Broderick Jones and just have a vet there that can work with him. Maybe Wiley is there so he can work with him. But I kind of like how we did with quarterback, with Jacoby coming in to potentially help Sam Howell. But yeah, if we can get the likes of one of those big beefy Georgia guys, I just think the smart move is to let Leno go. I mean, I like him, and obviously he was our man of the year and all that good stuff. But at the same time, we're really trying to solidify a line. We're really trying to build up to the future. So yeah, I think you do. I think you do have to cut him. Obviously, me, my mock 53-man roster gets like 12 to 13 or 14. So I'll find room for Leno. Yeah. But realistically, I do think you do. If we get the opportunity to get Broderick Jones, that if he slides down to us, yes, I think we have to. I think
it's a no-brainer. Yeah. And not only that, you can take the money that you use by cutting Leno, and so it's kind of like, all right, well, you're past free agency. How are you going to fix the roster? You're going to invest that back into the team. If you're getting $8 million cap savings on by cutting Charles Leno, you can put that into Cam Curl's contract extension.
Right.
You could put that into Montez Sweat's contract extension if that's the route you go. So if you're able to, that's what I'm saying, like with the offensive line, if we can improve it for cheap and get rid of a guy like Leno, get rid of a guy like Chase Roulier, that's $12 million we've just opened up that can be flipped into someone else on the roster to be a part of it. So it's kind of like you have to explore it. Now, that's also dream scenario for Broderick Jones to fall in. Realistically, I think there's enough teams out there with young quarterbacks that they've already drafted, or just teams that with needs. They're probably not going to happen. But the other one that was brought up, Jim Nagy today said he's hearing that Darnell Wright of Tennessee, he's a right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, Most likely will not make it. Most likely will go in the top 20 from everything he's hearing. What if we're the ones that pick him at right tackle, and then you move Wiley over to left guard?
Yeah, so it's very possible. Yeah, I like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there's definitely some opportunities. Honestly, though, when it comes to tackle, I think we're looking more in like that second round for somebody, unless one of these guys slides. Someone like Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Someone like a Jalen Duncan from Maryland. That is like a sort of like that Sam Cosmi, where he's not going to replace who we have necessarily, but he will next year. You know what I mean? Like you're building him for the future. There's someone here that Sean, for the first time, I guess this guy is actually going to be draft eligible. And all these mocks, I've seen Blake Freeland of BYU for years, and for some reason he's on all these mocks and then he never comes out. Well, he's available too, so he could be someone in that second or third round that's like, all right, well, he's not going to be this year's starter, but he will take over for next year. So you're going to get some cap savings. So that may be something that we see from the outside, from the tackle world.
Yeah, and that's and obviously, if you have an opportunity to get somebody like that, you make that move. You don't go ahead and pass up. And it's clear you and I are sure we need to get an O lineman. If we have that opportunity to get an O lineman early, we need to go ahead and pick that up. Mm-hmm. I liken to Cosmi that we got a couple years back early, and we see how that's kind of panned out. Hopefully this year with him and Wiley over there, if we do keep them over on that right side, that's a great combo. You know what I mean? We need to pick up a young guy. Another guy that we mentioned that we picked up last year, we mentioned Alex and I mentioned Chris Paul, just moving bodies. We're really high on him, and I like that. So that is something we have to focus on that early. I like Roger Jones, Darnell. Darnell Wright? I like him. Mm-hmm. Anton Harrison, outside of the name, obviously, I love his size at 6'5", 315. And, I mean, look, on almost 450 pass snaps, pass blocking snaps, he's allowing, 9 hurries and, no sacks. So I love that.
Yeah.
But they are air raid. They are passing all day long. So I don't know how that translates into running especially in the NFL. Yeah. You know what I mean? We know about those high flying pass offenses at Oklahoma, and that's great. But I kind of feel like with the mobility of Sam Howell and even Jacoby Brissett can move too. I feel like we're going to be running a lot more, especially if what Rivera said comes to fruition, then we're going to be running. So that makes me think. But again, if he's there, maybe second round, we go there. You know what I mean? We look at that. And also, so tackle is huge. Interior. Yes. You mentioned the guy out of who is it? Schmidt, John Michael Schmidt out of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the guy you meant? Yeah, him. Somebody that I had thought about, but Alex had put me on to. Obviously from Michigan. Olotimi.
I'm not even going to try to say his name.
No, right. That's what we're saying. But he won the Remington Award. He won, the best offensive lineman, best center. And those are the type of guys that I think we might need to take a chance on. If we're bringing a Nick Gates in, if we don't know about Roulier and everything like that, let's bring in a guy that has been proven to play. He's played 4 years. He's a solid starter. Let's bring in somebody like that. Even if you have him sit for a year, it's like you were saying with some of those other guys. It's getting the experience, getting them to learn. We also don't know how Chris Paul is going to translate this year. Like if he's going to win one of those guard spots and then all of a sudden, okay, then you're only looking at tackle. Then you know what I mean? So there are a lot of these things are what we're looking at. Interior though, what other names are you looking at? There's some names that I had looked at, but some of the guys got hurt. Obviously Voorhees had went down and with, the ACL and all that, you never want to take a chance on that. But then on the flip side, he's still in the combine, did his bench press and was pumping like 35 and you still doing it. So it makes me think of David Ajabu or Jameson Williamson last year, who gets drafted and still gets drafted high, even though they had the injury. And then towards the end of the late season or into the next season, they're actually playing. So do we take a chance second round later, maybe, on a Voorhees or something, or or one of these other guys?
Well, there's a lot, so you may not have to take that chance in the second round because there's a lot of other guys. One of the things that's kind of interesting is you mentioned about Cody Mock. With all of these drafts, I'm telling you, Sean, they've been watching me play NCAA football because they have been able to see how I recruit nothing but tackles.
Yep.
And I move them all around to tackle, guard, center based on where I have a need, and they all become All-Americans. Because all of the offensive linemen coming out here have position flex. There's very few of them are tackle only. I mean, they talk about the best left tackle coming out of Northwestern is the guy Skoronski, but they said he could slide inside if a team wanted him to. You know, of the interior guys, there's a lot of guys who can play guard and center, and so it gives you that flexibility. About the only pure guard is the best guard, the guy from Louisiana Lafayette who transferred to Florida and played. He followed his coach, Osiris Torrance. Alex said it. He said it was his number one interior lineman, and he's right. He's a big dude. He can, he would be a plug and play. Here's your starter. And that is exciting to me. I'll be honest. I want to see an interior lineman picked in one of our first 3 picks because, like you said, I'm concerned about 2 things. One, okay, so they like Chris Paul, they see something there, but he was a 6th round pick. We can't anoint him a starter yet. And then the other thing is, if we do go with Nick Gates or Chase Roulier, we've got injury-prone centers. We brought back Tyler Larson. So we have 3 injury-prone centers. We need someone to come in here and not be Wes Schweitzer, who's a guard who can play center, but a center who knows how to really handle things. So I want us to get some. The name I heard, the only name that I didn't hear Alex say is a dude out of TCU, Steve Avila.
Really?
Yeah. Avila. Yeah.
I mentioned him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm hearing that he could be either after John Michael Schmitz or before him as like the next guy because of that position flexibility of him. So whether it's the guy from North Dakota, like you said, Cody Mock, whether it's this Avila guy, whether it's Joe Tippmann of Wisconsin, I don't care. Give me somebody. If it's Luke Whippler from Ohio State, give me somebody inside. You gotta it's not sexy, but it's what we need. We need to be building this line. We need, look at the 2 teams that made the Super Bowl last year. Offensive line was not a problem for those guys, for both of those teams. That's the mentality that we've got. We've got some skilled position players. I really want us. That's where it's like, I don't care if you went Osiris Torrance and Joe Tippmann, 1st round, 3rd round,
go with it.
I'm happy. You're building in the trenches and you're finding ways to save money in a place, build through the draft so that you can spend your money elsewhere.
Oh yeah, it's always good to go with a Wisconsin boy. Somebody has to just the corn-fed white boys, man. Give me some Wisconsin, some Iowa boys. Let's go. I'm with that. As long as we can go up to North Dakota, get my guy Cody Mock.
Oh yeah,
I'm okay.